Have you ever wondered what it really means to die well? Not just fading away, but meeting the end with peace, with clarity, with grace, and more than that, what if dying well is the very key to living again? Even better, the Buddha taught that death is not the enemy. It is a doorway. How you walk through it shapes everything that comes after. Most of us avoid thinking about death, but in doing so, we also avoid the chance to live fully. Right now, in this gentle talk today, we'll explore the timeless wisdom of the Buddha on dying well, and how that wisdom can guide us to live more awake, more joyful, more free. So, take a deep breath, settle your mind, and let's begin. Have you ever noticed how rarely we allow ourselves to sit with the idea of death? We live in a world full of distractions, constant noise, endless entertainment, always another thing on the to-do list. And beneath it all, often unspoken, there is a quiet discomfort, a shadow we don't quite want to face. The awareness that, one day, this body will stop breathing, this life will come to an end. And yet, the Buddha, more than 2,500 years ago, taught that facing this truth directly is not something to be feared. In fact, it is one of the most powerful paths to freedom. Death is not a failure. It is not the enemy. It is not even an ending. In the way we often think, the Buddha said, everything that arises passes away. This is the law of impermanence, woven into the very fabric of existence. To live in harmony with life is to live in harmony with impermanence. So why talk about death? Because when we bring this awareness into our hearts, not just as a thought, but as something we truly feel, something shifts. Life becomes more vivid, gratitude deepens, the mind becomes clearer, and paradoxically, by learning how to die well, we learn how to live better. The Buddha often encouraged his monks and followers to reflect on death daily. Not in a morbid way, not to sink into fear, but to remember what truly matters, to let go of what does not. When you know that every moment could be your last, would you still waste so much time on petty resentments? On endless striving for things that do not nourish the heart? Or would you perhaps pause, breathe, and choose love, understanding, presence? Modern culture teaches us to seek youth, to fight aging, to resist change, but all of that resistance only creates suffering. What the Buddha offered is something entirely different, a way to meet change with grace, to accept loss with wisdom, to meet death not as a terrifying unknown, but as an old friend, simply opening the next door. Let's reflect on this deeply for a moment. Imagine if you could sit, right now, with the full awareness that your time here is limited. Not in a distant, abstract way, but in the very real sense that today could be your last day. How would you live? What would you say to those you love? What would you forgive? What burdens would you finally set down? This is not a hypothetical game. It is reality. None of us know the exact hour when this body will breathe its final breath. To live with this awareness is not to be obsessed with death, it is to be awake. Fully awake to life as it is. This is why the Buddha's teachings on death are, ultimately, teachings on life. To live well, we must understand how to die well. And to die well, we must live each day with mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom. In the ancient texts, there are many stories of those who approached death with a heart of peace. Monks and nuns, householders and kings, people from all walks of life. What they shared was not wealth or status, but a mind trained in letting go, a heart free from clinging. Because at the moment of death, nothing we have can be taken with us. Not our possessions, not our achievements, not even our name. What remains is the quality of our mind, the tendencies of our heart, the karma of our actions. The Buddha asked, if we understand this, how should we live? Not in fear, but in a way that honors the preciousness of each breath. Think of someone you know who lived with this kind of awareness. Perhaps an elder who seemed to radiate peace, or someone who faced great illness without bitterness, but with acceptance. What gave them that strength? It was not denial of death. It was intimacy with it. When we stop running from impermanence, we find a deeper well of peace than we thought possible. Even here in the West, among those discovering mindfulness and meditation, many begin to feel this shift, to realize this practice is not just about stress relief. It is about waking up to the truth of change, and in that awakening, finding a freedom beyond what the world can offer. You might wonder, if I start reflecting on death, won't that make life feel darker? But the surprising truth is, it makes life feel brighter, more precious, more fragile and beautiful, like a dewdrop on a leaf. When you know the dewdrop will soon fall, you cherish it even more. This is the heart of what the Buddha taught. He did not tell us to fear death. He taught us to prepare for it, to embrace it as part of the path, and through that preparation, to unlock a deeper joy in living. So in this talk today, as we explore these teachings together, I invite you, let your mind be open, let your heart soften. Do not shy away from this reflection. Instead, welcome it as a gateway to freedom. Because when you truly understand how to die well, you will also discover how to live again, better than ever before. Now, take a deep breath with me. Feel the air entering your body and leaving it. Even this breath is impermanent. And in that truth, there is beauty, there is life. Let us continue. So now that we've opened our hearts to this reflection on death and impermanence, let us look deeper into what the Buddha truly taught about this truth that touches all of us. In his teachings, impermanence is not just about death itself. It is about every breath, every moment, every aspect of life constantly changing, moving, slipping through our fingers no matter how tightly we try to hold on. The Buddha used the word anicca, which means impermanence or change. Everything is in motion. The body you inhabit, the emotions you feel, the thoughts that arise in your mind, the relationships you treasure, the joys and sorrows you experience, they are all impermanent. They arise, they stay for a while, and then they fade away. This understanding is not just intellectual. It is meant to be deeply seen, felt, and known in your bones. Why? Because the root of so much of our suffering comes from forgetting this truth. We cling to what is pleasant, wanting it to last forever. We resist what is painful, wishing it would disappear immediately. But life does not follow our desires. It moves according to its own nature, impermanent, ever-changing. And nowhere is this truth more obvious than in death. The body, no matter how healthy or strong, will one day cease to breathe. The heart will stop, the warmth will fade, the life force that animates us will let go. There is no exception. No amount of money, success, beauty, or power can change this truth. It is the great equalizer, the reminder that we are all part of the same cycle of birth and death. The Buddha's own life reflected this teaching. Before he was enlightened, he lived as a sheltered prince, shielded from the harsh realities of aging, sickness, and death. But one day, stepping outside the palace walls, he encountered an old man, a sick man, and a corpse being carried to the cremation grounds. In those moments, the truth of impermanence struck his heart deeply. He realized, no one is spared. And this realization set him on the path of awakening. He later taught his monks, of all the footprints, that of the elephant is supreme, of all contemplations. Contemplation of impermanence is supreme. Why did he say this? Because to truly contemplate impermanence dissolves attachment, softens the ego, and opens the heart to wisdom. Now, you might be wondering, how do I bring this contemplation into my life in a real and meaningful way? How do I live with an awareness of death without falling into fear or sadness? It begins with simple moments of mindfulness. Imagine, you are drinking a warm cup of tea. The aroma rises. The steam curls upward. You take a sip and feel the warmth spread through your body. In that moment, you can quietly reflect. This cup of tea, this moment, is impermanent. Soon, the tea will be gone. The warmth will fade. This moment will pass. And knowing this, you savor it even more. Or you are sitting with a loved one, perhaps sharing a conversation, a laugh, or even sitting in silence. You can gently remind yourself, this connection, this moment of togetherness, is impermanent. One day, one of us will be gone. Knowing this, you open your heart fully, appreciating the gift of this present time. By practicing in this way, day after day, the truth of impermanence becomes more natural, less frightening. You stop taking life for granted. You stop pushing away the reality of change. And as you soften into this truth, life becomes richer, more precious, more alive. There is also a formal practice that the Buddha recommended, called Maranasati, the contemplation of death. It is not meant to be morbid, but liberating. The practice is simple. Each day, reflect on the reality that you too will die. Not in an abstract sense, but as a real truth. You might say quietly to yourself, today I could die. Am I ready? Is my heart at peace? Are there regrets I would carry? Are there words I wish I had said? Acts of love I wish I had offered? This daily reflection helps to clear the mind. It cuts through trivial concerns. It reminds us of what truly matters. And over time, it brings great freedom, because when you stop fearing death, life no longer holds you in chains. The great Tibetan teacher, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche, once said, when you live as though you could die tomorrow, you live with a heart that is free. And when you die as though you could live forever, you cling and suffer. Even modern psychology supports this ancient wisdom. Studies have shown that when people consciously reflect on their mortality, they often become more compassionate, more generous, more focused on relationships, and less driven by material concerns. They find deeper meaning in their lives. So the Buddha's teaching on impermanence is not meant to depress us. It is meant to awaken us, to remind us that because life is fleeting, it is precious. Because it will end, we should love more, forgive more, and live more fully. Right now, think of a sunset. The colors blaze across the sky, deep reds, purples, golds. If the sunset lasted forever, would we treasure it the same way? No, its beauty is in its fleeting nature. It reminds us to pause, to appreciate, to be present. In the same way, life's impermanence can awaken us to presence, to gratitude, to love. And there is another layer to this teaching. When we accept impermanence, we also begin to let go of the illusion of control. Much of our suffering comes from trying to control what we cannot. We want to control time, aging, the actions of others, the unfolding of life itself. But none of this is within our grasp. Trying to control the uncontrollable only creates stress and tension. But when we relax into the truth of change, we find a deep peace. We can meet life with openness, curiosity, and compassion. We can flow with its rhythms, rather than fight against them. This is the heart of the Buddha's teaching on impermanence, not resignation, but liberation. And this brings us back to death. To die well, one must live well. And to live well, one must befriend impermanence. To walk through life with eyes open to its fleeting nature. To love fully, knowing that love itself is precious because it will change. To offer kindness, knowing that each moment is an opportunity that will not return. The great Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh once wrote, "Because you are alive, everything is possible." This possibility shines brightest when we are aware of life's impermanence. So as we continue this reflection, I invite you, take a breath and feel it. Know that this breath is a gift. The next one is not promised. Let this truth inspire not fear, but joy. Let it call you to live this day with presence, with love, with gratitude, And as we move forward, we will explore how this understanding prepares the mind, not only for life, but for the moment of death itself. Because the way we meet death shapes everything that follows. But first, let us sit quietly for a few breaths, feeling the life that moves within us, remembering this too is impermanent. And in that truth, there is great freedom. As we continue this reflection together, it becomes clear. The path to dying well is not something we begin at the very end of life. It is a path we walk each day. And one of the most profound ways we can prepare our minds and hearts for this inevitable transition is through meditation. Meditation, in the Buddhist tradition, is not merely about stress relief or relaxation, though it can certainly bring those benefits. At its core, it is a practice of seeing reality clearly, of training the mind to remain steady, open, and compassionate in the face of life's constant changes, including the ultimate change of death. The Buddha often taught that the quality of the mind at the moment of death plays a crucial role in what happens next. Just as a seed contains within it the blueprint of what will sprout and grow, so too does the state of our mind at life's end shape our journey forward. If the mind is filled with fear, clinging, regret, or anger, these energies can cloud the transition. But if the mind is calm, clear, and open, death can be met with dignity, grace, and even joy. But how do we cultivate such a mind? One powerful method is through a practice known as maranasati, mindfulness of death. This is not a gloomy or morbid contemplation. It is an invitation to live more fully. Each day, we reflect. This life is impermanent. This body is fragile. Death could come at any time. Am I ready? Is my heart at peace? By turning our attention gently toward this truth, again and again, the fear of death begins to loosen its grip. We stop pushing the thought away. We stop pretending we will live forever. And in this honest seeing, we become more alive. Another powerful practice is breath meditation, simply observing the breath as it flows in and out of the body. Why is this so effective? Because the breath is the thread that connects life and death. The very first thing we do when we are born is to take a breath. And the last thing we do when we die is to release a breath. By training the mind to rest calmly with the breath, we prepare it to stay steady even in the great transition of dying. Consider this. When the breath is calm, the mind becomes calm. When the mind is calm, wisdom can arise, and with wisdom, we can meet death not with fear, but with understanding. It is said that advanced meditators can enter deep states of equanimity even as the body weakens and approaches death. They are able to let go, to flow with the process, rather than resisting it. But even if one is not an advanced meditator, simply practicing mindfulness daily, watching the breath, observing the mind, letting go of attachments, can make a profound difference. Think of the mind like a lake. If the lake is full of waves, restlessness, worry, regret, it will be hard to see clearly when the winds of change come. But if the lake is calm, even as a storm approaches, its surface can remain still, reflecting the sky with clarity. This is what meditation offers us. The ability to keep the mind calm even in the face of great change. There is also a deep compassion that arises from this practice. As we contemplate our own mortality, we naturally begin to see the preciousness of all life. We understand that everyone we meet is walking their own path toward death. Everyone carries unseen burdens, unspoken fears. From this understanding, kindness and patience grow. We become less quick to judge, more willing to forgive, because in the face of death, what truly matters is love. When we meditate on death, something else beautiful happens. Gratitude blooms. The simple act of waking up each morning becomes a gift. The warmth of the sun on your skin, the sound of a loved one's laughter, even the challenges of daily life are seen in a new light. Because you know, this too will pass. And in knowing this, you cherish it more deeply. This is one of the great paradoxes of the path. By accepting the impermanence of life, we do not become sad or hopeless. We become more joyful, more present, more awake to the beauty of each moment. And this joy is not dependent on circumstances. It comes from within, a quiet, steady happiness born of understanding. When the mind is trained to rest in awareness, it does not cling to what is pleasant, nor does it push away what is unpleasant. It abides in a spacious openness, welcoming life as it is. The Buddha often used the image of a lotus flower. Though it grows in muddy water, the lotus rises above the mud, unstained. In the same way, a mind trained in meditation can remain clear and bright, even amidst the inevitable sorrows and losses of life. And so, as we walk this path together, we begin to see, preparing for death is not separate from living well. It is the very heart of living well. Each moment of mindfulness, each breath taken with awareness, each act of kindness, is a step toward a peaceful mind, a mind that can meet death with openness and trust. Perhaps you are wondering, is it too late for me to begin this practice? The answer is no, it is never too late. Whether you are young or old, healthy or ill, every moment is an opportunity to awaken, to turn toward life with fresh eyes, to let go of what no longer serves you, to plant seeds of peace and compassion in your heart. And if you already have a meditation practice, let this reflection deepen it. Bring a gentle awareness of impermanence into your sitting. Reflect. This breath may be my last. Let me meet it with gratitude. Let me release it with love. In this way, your practice becomes not just a preparation for death, but a celebration of life. Each breath, each moment, a precious gift. There is a story from the Buddhist tradition of a great meditation master who, when asked what his practice was, replied simply, letting go. Letting go of fear, letting go of clinging, letting go of resistance to what is. And in that letting go, he found true freedom. This is the invitation of the Buddha's teaching, to let go, to awaken, to live each day with a heart that is open and free. And so as we continue this journey together, let us take a moment now to sit quietly. Feel the breath entering and leaving the body. With each breath, a gentle reminder, this life is precious. This life is impermanent. And in knowing this, may we live with greater love, greater wisdom, and greater peace. As we continue on this path of reflection, it becomes clearer that preparing to die well is not simply about techniques or beliefs. It is, at its heart, about the quality of our mind in the present moment. The Buddha taught that when the moment of death comes, it is the state of our consciousness that matters most. Not the outer conditions, not the place, not who is present, but the inner state of the heart. This is why the practices we cultivate now are so important. They shape the tendencies of the mind. They shape how we meet both life and death. In the teachings, it is often said that the way we live is the way we will die. If we live with kindness, mindfulness, and wisdom, those qualities will naturally arise at the time of death. If we live with fear, grasping, and regret, those will be the tendencies present when we face the final breath. And so, the question arises, how do we prepare the mind so that it can meet death with peace, clarity, and even joy? One answer lies in understanding the role of letting go. Throughout life, we hold on tightly to so many things, to the body, to identity, to possessions, to relationships, to achievements. There is nothing inherently wrong with loving life and those we care about. But when our attachment becomes rigid, when we cling out of fear, suffering arises, and when death approaches, those attachments can make the transition very difficult. Imagine the mind at death as a bird taking flight. If the bird is weighed down by heavy burdens, it cannot rise gracefully. But if it is light and free, it can soar. Letting go is the process of lightening the heart. of releasing what no longer serves us. The Buddha encouraged his followers to practice this letting go every day, to reflect on what is truly important, to forgive old hurts, to make peace with unresolved regrets, to loosen the grip of ego and pride. Each small act of release prepares the mind to meet death with openness. There is a beautiful story in the tradition of a wise elder who, when asked what he had gained from years of meditation, replied, "I have learned to die before I die." What did he mean? That through mindfulness and reflection, he had gradually let go of the illusions and attachments that cause fear. He had tasted a kind of death, the death of clinging, and in doing so, found freedom. This is the heart of the path, to die before you die. Not physically, of course, but in the sense of releasing the false self, the rigid ego, the endless striving, to rest in the spacious awareness that is beyond birth and death. When this is cultivated, the mind becomes steady and clear, and at the moment of death, instead of panic or resistance, there can be acceptance, there can even be joy, a deep trust in the natural unfolding of life. But let us also be honest, for many people, the thought of death still brings fear. This is natural. The unknown often does. But here again, the Buddha's teachings offer comfort. He reminded us that death is not truly the end. It is a transition, a continuation of the stream of consciousness shaped by our karma, our actions, words, and thoughts. Understanding this, we can begin to shift our relationship to death. Rather than seeing it as annihilation, we see it as transformation. And with this understanding, the fear begins to soften. There are practices that can support this transformation of fear. One is the cultivation of loving kindness, or metta, by regularly generating feelings of goodwill toward ourselves and others. We train the heart in compassion. And when the heart is full of compassion, fear cannot easily take root. Another is the reflection on gratitude. By remembering all the blessings we have received, by honoring the beauty of life, we fill the mind with positive energy. And this positive energy can carry us through even the most difficult moments. It is also helpful to contemplate the universality of death. Every being, without exception, will experience this transition. In this way, death is not something strange or abnormal. It is part of the human experience. Knowing this, we can feel a sense of connection with all of life. We are not alone in this journey. In many cultures, death is hidden away, avoided, treated as taboo, but in the Buddhist tradition, it is brought into the light. It is spoken of openly, reflected upon regularly, not to dwell in morbidity, but to free the mind from unnecessary fear. There are countless stories of practitioners who, through years of mindful living, met death with incredible grace. Some passed away in meditation, with a smile on their lips. Others used their final moments to offer blessings to those around them. These are not fairy tales. They are real examples of what is possible when the mind is trained. And so, the invitation is clear. Begin now. Do not wait until the final days. Cultivate the mind of peace today. Practice mindfulness, loving kindness, and reflection. Forgive, let go, live with gratitude. For as the Buddha said, of all the footprints, that of the elephant is supreme. And of all meditations, the contemplation of impermanence is supreme. Let us take this teaching to heart. Let us walk the path with courage and compassion. And when the time comes to release this body, may our minds be light, open, and free. Now, as we sit quietly for a moment, feel the breath, in and out. Remember, this breath, this moment, is precious. Let us meet it with love. As we've reflected so far, preparing the mind and heart for death begins with awareness, with mindfulness of impermanence, and with a steady practice of letting go. Yet there is another layer of the Buddha's teaching that offers us even greater clarity and insight as we move closer to understanding how to die well. and in doing so, how to live again, better. That teaching is the understanding of karma and rebirth. These are topics that, for many in the West, may feel unfamiliar or even uncomfortable. But I invite you now to listen with an open heart and mind. Not as a doctrine to be blindly believed, but as a way of seeing that can help us approach life and death with deeper wisdom and compassion. In the Buddha's view, life is not limited to this one body, this one lifetime. What we call life is more like a vast stream, a stream of consciousness that moves through many forms, many experiences. Death is not an ending, but a transition, a passing from one state to another. What moves forward is not a fixed self or soul, but rather the flow of consciousness shaped by karma, the actions of body, speech, and mind. Karma, in this sense, is not punishment or reward, but simply the natural law of cause and effect. Every thought we think, every word we speak, every action we take leaves an imprint on the mind. These imprints shape our tendencies, our experiences, and ultimately the conditions of our future lives. Think of it like planting seeds. Each act of kindness plants a seed of joy. Each moment of anger or greed plants a seed of suffering. And just as a garden will eventually bear the fruit of the seeds that were sown, so too does our life, and the lives to come, unfold according to the seeds we have planted. This is not meant to frighten us. Quite the opposite. It is a teaching of empowerment. It reminds us that our future is not fixed. It is being shaped moment by moment through our choices. We are not trapped by our past. Every mindful breath, every act of compassion, every moment of awareness plants seeds of freedom. When we understand this, a new responsibility arises. We begin to care deeply about the quality of our mind. We begin to watch more carefully what we say and do, knowing that our actions ripple far beyond this moment. And when it comes to dying well, this understanding is crucial, because at the moment of death, the mind is often in a vulnerable state. The habits and tendencies we have cultivated throughout life will come to the surface. If we have spent a lifetime sowing seeds of mindfulness, kindness, and letting go, those qualities will naturally arise to support us. If, on the other hand, we have spent life caught in anger, fear, or craving, those patterns may dominate the mind at the crucial time. This is why the Buddha emphasized the importance of practice, not only for living well, but for dying well, and for what may follow after. There are many stories in the Buddhist tradition of individuals whose final moments were deeply influenced by their inner cultivation. Some, even after lifetimes of difficulty, were able to meet death with clarity and peace because of the strength of their practice. Others, despite outward success, faced great inner turmoil because they had neglected to prepare the heart. One famous story tells of a great general who, after years of conquest, finally turned to the Dharma late in life. Realizing the suffering he had caused, he devoted his final years to practice, meditation, acts of kindness, and service to others. When the time of death came, his mind was calm, his heart open. Those who witnessed his passing spoke of the deep peace that surrounded him. Another story tells of a humble farmer who had lived a simple life of honesty and generosity. Though uneducated in formal teachings, his heart was full of kindness. When his final breath came, he met it with a gentle smile. Surrounded by family and friends who felt uplifted rather than burdened by grief. These stories remind us that it is never too late to cultivate the heart. And that what matters most at the end is not wealth, fame, or achievement, but the qualities of the mind we carry. The Buddha also taught that the way we relate to karma and rebirth should inspire compassion. Because when we see that every being is shaped by their past actions, and that all beings are moving through cycles of birth and death, the heart naturally softens. We see others not as enemies or strangers, but as fellow travelers, beings who, like us, seek happiness, who fear suffering, who are caught in the same impermanence of life. This perspective dissolves harsh judgments. It encourages forgiveness. It opens the way for boundless compassion. And compassion itself becomes a powerful force of transformation. Each act of compassion plants seeds of peace, both for ourselves and for the world. When we understand karma deeply, we also let go of the need to control others or force outcomes. We trust that each being will reap the fruit of their actions in time. Our role is not to judge, but to cultivate our own mind and heart, and to offer kindness where we can. And when death comes, whether for ourselves or for loved ones, this understanding brings great comfort. We know that death is not an end, but a doorway. That consciousness will continue its journey, shaped by the seeds that have been planted. This perspective allows us to let go with greater ease, to release loved ones with blessings rather than with clinging, to trust in the natural law of cause and effect. And so the teachings of karma and rebirth are not distant metaphysical ideas. They are living truths that can guide our everyday life and our final moments. They remind us that what we do matters, that our choices echo beyond this life, that we have the power to shape our future through present awareness. And most importantly, they remind us to live now with integrity, with love, and with mindfulness. So as we continue this reflection, let us take a quiet moment, sitting with the breath, feeling the body, resting in awareness. Reflect. What seeds am I planting today? Are they seeds of peace, of compassion, of wisdom? And know this: it is never too late to begin. Every moment is new. Every breath offers the chance to sow goodness. In this way, we prepare, not only for a peaceful death, but for a life well lived. And for the unfolding journey beyond. Let us rest in that understanding now, with a breath of gratitude, with a heart of compassion, and with a mind open to the great mystery of life. As we reflect more deeply on these teachings of karma, rebirth, and the power of the mind, we can begin to sense that the preparation for death is not something separate from our daily life. It is woven into every moment, every thought, every choice we make. Dying well, in the view of the Buddha, is simply the natural result of having lived well. And to live well is to live with awareness, with compassion, and with an open heart. It may sound simple, but this path asks much of us. It asks that we look honestly at ourselves, that we recognize the habits and tendencies that cause suffering, and that we commit, little by little, to letting go of those habits. It asks that we cultivate patience with our own imperfections, and with the imperfections of others, that we understand how deeply all beings are shaped by causes and conditions, that we soften the tendency to blame, to judge, to separate. It asks that we live with intention, that we recognize the great power we have to plant seeds of kindness and peace in this world, and that we do so, even in small ways, every day. In this way, we are always preparing for the final breath, not out of fear, but out of love, out of respect for this precious opportunity we have been given, to awaken, to grow, to serve. The Buddha often spoke of the human life as rare and precious. He compared it to a blind turtle in a vast ocean, surfacing once every 100 years, and by chance placing its head through a wooden yoke floating on the waves. Such is the rarity of this opportunity we now have, to practice, to awaken. And yet how easily we forget, how easily we are swept away by distraction, by worry, by the endless busyness of modern life. Days pass, weeks pass, years pass, and we may not pause to ask, am I living in a way that truly brings peace to my heart? This is why the practice of reflection is so important. Not just formal meditation, but moments throughout the day when we remember the teachings, when we reconnect with what truly matters. It can be as simple as pausing before a meal, offering a quiet thought of gratitude, as simple as taking a breath before speaking, and choosing words that are kind and true. As simple as looking into the eyes of a loved one and remembering, this moment is fleeting. Let me be fully here. Let me love well. These small acts, done consistently, have great power. They shape the mind. They plant the seeds of a peaceful death, and of a life that ripples goodness into the world. Another practice that supports this path is forgiveness. So many of us carry old wounds, old resentments, unresolved pain, and when we approach death, these burdens can weigh heavily on the heart. To die well, we must forgive. We must release the grasping at past hurts, whether they are harms done to us or harms we have caused others. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or pretending that harm did not occur. It means releasing the poison of hatred and blame from our own hearts. It means recognizing that all beings act from their own suffering, their own ignorance, and that clinging to anger only deepens our own suffering. In the Buddhist tradition, it is often taught that one of the greatest gifts we can offer ourselves and others is forgiveness. It frees the heart. It brings lightness. It prepares us to meet death with a mind unburdened by regret. And forgiveness must also be extended to ourselves. So many people approach the end of life with deep regret over their mistakes, their perceived failures. They carry guilt, shame, sorrow. But the path of the Buddha reminds us, we are all human. We are all imperfect. The very nature of this world is imperfection. What matters is not that we have never erred, but that we see clearly now. That we resolve, in this moment, to act with wisdom and compassion. In doing so, we free ourselves from the chains of the past. We open to the possibility of peace, even now. And this is one of the most beautiful truths of this path. It is never too late. No matter our age, our health, our past, we can always turn the heart toward the light. There are stories of people who, even in their final days, found deep peace through forgiveness, gratitude, and love, who, despite illness and pain, radiated a quiet joy that uplifted all around them. Such is the power of an awakened heart. Another profound practice that supports a peaceful death is generosity. The act of giving, whether material or spiritual, loosens the grip of attachment. It trains the mind to let go, to share, to rejoice in the happiness of others. When we cultivate generosity throughout life, the habit of clinging weakens. And at death, this habit of giving carries the mind toward spaciousness, toward freedom. Even simple acts, giving a smile, a kind word, a helping hand, create the conditions for a peaceful heart. And as we practice generosity, we also deepen our sense of connection. We remember that we are not separate from the web of life. We are part of this great unfolding. At the moment of death, this sense of connection can be a great source of comfort. To know that our life has touched others, that our goodness will continue to ripple outward, this brings meaning and peace. So as we move forward, let us remember, the preparation for death is not a single act or moment. It is a way of living. Living with mindfulness, living with compassion, living with forgiveness, living with generosity. In this way, we prepare not only for a peaceful death, but for a life of deep fulfillment and joy. And when the final breath comes, we can meet it with an open heart, trusting in the path we have walked, and in the goodness we have cultivated. Let us take a moment now, in stillness, breathing in, breathing out, resting in gratitude for this precious life. And with each breath, may we sow seeds of peace, for ourselves, for others, and for all beings. As we arrive at this final reflection together, it is natural to ask ourselves, after all these teachings, after all this understanding, what does it truly mean to die well and to live again better? Perhaps the answer is not found in some distant idea or perfect practice, but in this very moment, right here, right now. Because the truth is, every moment of life is a preparation for death. And every moment of death is a doorway to greater life. When we look with clear eyes, we see that death is not an isolated event. It is part of life itself. Every breath we take contains the seed of letting go. The in-breath arises. The out-breath dissolves. Each night when we surrender to sleep, we release our grip on the world. There is, already, a rhythm of death and rebirth flowing through us in each moment. And so, to die well is not about mastering some technique in the final hour. It is about living in such a way that when the final breath comes, it feels natural, like a wave returning to the ocean, like a leaf falling gently to the earth. When the heart has known love, forgiveness, generosity, mindfulness, and compassion, death is no longer an enemy. It is a companion, a teacher, a transition that holds no fear. And this wisdom brings us to a deeper realization. When we live with this awareness, we are already living again. Better. Each moment becomes more vivid, more precious. The small joys of life, the warmth of sunlight on the skin, the sound of laughter, the simple kindness of a friend, all shine with greater meaning. We begin to release the endless striving for things that do not satisfy. The craving for status, possessions, or fleeting pleasures begins to lose its hold, and what remains is a heart more free, more awake, more present. This is the quiet revolution of the Buddha's path. Not a turning away from life, but a turning toward it with new eyes. Eyes that see the beauty in impermanence. Eyes that know that because everything changes, each moment matters. There is a story told of a great teacher who, when asked what he would do if he knew he had only one day left to live, replied softly, "I would do what I do every day. I would rise early. I would sit in meditation. I would offer kindness to those I meet. I would walk slowly in the garden. I would give thanks for this life." This is the mind of one who is ready for death. Not because they have transcended fear in some superhuman way, but because they have made peace with life. They have lived with integrity, with presence, with love. And this, dear friends, is something we can all cultivate. Beginning today, you do not need to wait for some future time when you feel more ready, more spiritual, more wise. Every breath you take is an opportunity. Every encounter is a chance to practice kindness. Every challenge is a chance to let go, to forgive, to grow. And if we live in this way, what happens when we meet the final breath? There may still be sadness, of course, for life is precious. There may still be the unknown, but there will also be trust. A quiet knowing that nothing is wasted, that all that we have loved and learned moves forward, carried by the stream of consciousness. And if there is to be another life, it will be shaped by these seeds of goodness. It will arise from the very heart we have cultivated here and now. In this way, death is not an end but a beginning. It is a doorway to a new unfolding of life. And the best preparation for this journey is not found in clinging to dogma or belief, but in living each day with as much presence, compassion, and wisdom as we can. Let us also remember that the process of death is not just for ourselves. We will, at some point, walk beside loved ones as they approach this transition. To sit with someone who is dying is one of the deepest honors we can experience. And how we show up in that space can make all the difference. If we have cultivated peace in our own hearts, we can offer that peace to others. If we have practiced letting go, we can help them to let go. If we have known the power of forgiveness, we can help them release old burdens. Even a simple presence, being there with an open heart, without fear, without judgment, can be the greatest gift to one who is passing. For in that sacred space, words often fall away. What remains is love. And when we ourselves face that final moment, we can trust that those we have touched will carry our love forward. In this way, no life is ever lost. No goodness is ever wasted. It moves outward, like ripples on a vast and endless sea. And so as we bring this reflection to a close, let us pause now, in stillness. Let us breathe with gratitude for this precious life. Let us honor those who have come before us, those who have shown the way, and let us resolve to live with open hearts, with clarity, with compassion. For to die well is to live well, and to live well is to prepare the ground for an even brighter unfolding to come. May we all walk this path with courage and joy. May we greet each day as a gift. And when the time comes to release this body, may we do so with peace, with trust, and with love. Rest now, for a few moments, with this breath, here, now, in this life. This is the way, this is the practice, and this, dear friends, is the gift we can offer ourselves and the world.